Today's dish is 개성음식, Kaesong-style braised radish. 3 kinds of meat and radish combined together for a delicious flavor. Food from the Kaesong region are known for their taste. How did they become so famous? Find out about the different varieties and characteristics of Kaesong food. If you want to enjoy the taste of 3 meats and various vegetables, try 개성음식 at home. You'll be more than satisfied with the taste. The fancy garnish make the dish nice to eat with a drink. Learn more on More Than Kimchi. Shall we make 개성음식 now?
안녕하세요. Hello everyone, I'm 정화영. It's time again for More Than Kimchi, where we look forward to sharing with you the joy of cooking Korean food. Today's dish is 개성음식, Kaesong-style braised radish. Kaesong is a city located in Hwanghae province, just north of DMZ in North Korea, and traditionally famous for 2 things: its sharp dealing merchants and its unique delicious food. Now let's meet Mrs. Lee Dong-sun, who will show us how to prepare today's dish. 선생님 안녕하십니까?
안녕하세요.
오늘도 잘 부탁드리겠습니다.
네, 반갑습니다.
Also, I'm very happy to have Melanie Billings-yoon as our guest today. Hi,
Hello.
Melanie.
Hi.
Very nice to see you again. Now, shall we take a look at the ingredients that we're going to use today? Here we have mu, which is radish. You don't have the same kind of radish, but it's
No, this is a great
very
big
large
radish,
ones that
and
we
ours are small, and I think
right.
the flavor is quite different.
Is that right? So this is mu. 개성음식 mu means radish. And then we're going to use 3 kinds of meat for today: beef, chicken, and pork. And also 2 kinds of mushrooms called 느타리버섯 and 표고버섯, which is oyster mushrooms and shiitake mushrooms. And 1 more vegetable called 도라지. This is a root of bellflower plants, which I'm sure you never heard or have it.
Not at all.
So this is very unique to Korea. We really like that vegetable. And later for garnish, we're going to use 4 different kind of garnish. We have ginkgo nuts and red pepper threads and chestnuts, and also these are jujubes, dried jujubes we're going to use as a garnish. For seasoning, we have soy sauce, we have sugar, chopped onion and garlic, sesame oil, sesame seed, salt and pepper, and some flour later you're going to use. So now shall we start cooking? What shall we start first?
자, 먼저 무부터 썰어보도록 할게요.
So first thing we're going to do is, of course, the radish called mu. There you have a little bit sliced,
Okay.
and maybe you can do a
So
little
we're
more with it.
slicing these to about the size of the end of my finger.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
All right.
So about 4 centimeters long and about perhaps a little wider than 1 centimeters. And radish is a very crunchy and it has a lot of moisture. It's just really a nice
I'm going to take
vegetable.
a little piece off the end, if that's all right, and give it a taste and see.
And it's really good in salad too.
It's very crispy.
crispy.
Oh, high water content, but not as strong as the
yeah,
Western
very
radish.
subtle. Mrs. Lee already sliced all the mu there. The next step is going to be the meat. And this dish is interesting. We are using 3 different kinds of meat, beef, pork, and chicken. We are using it all. And again, when you slice the meat, it's important to make all the size the same. So we have chicken.
닭고기, 예.
물 같이 섞나요, 선생님?
네, 같이 섞어요.
So when you slice the meat, you make it like about bite size. And
So
then
these are just little chunks.
little chunks, bite size we call Korean bite size. So,
I noticed that the meat, and I've seen this on previous shows, is about half frozen. Why is that?
well, sometimes it makes you slice easy. I mean, I think it's faster for you to slice too.
Ah, you're
Yeah.
right. The knife goes straight through and the meat doesn't move around.
Right. So that's good to buy slightly half frozen. So
그리고,
here 3
네.
meats are ready. You cut into bite size. You mix it all together. You don't have to separate them.
Okay. 그리고 닭고기는 껍질을
예.
꼭 벗겨주시고요.
Yeah. So when you buy chicken, if it has a meat and also bone, make sure you take off the skin and also the bone.
Now, I've noticed the chicken that you've used here is the supreme, the fillet of the breast.
Yes.
Is that the best piece?
Yes, and for this dish, because it's braising, you're not going to really easy to take off the fat. So when you buy meat, it's important to buy something that doesn't have too much fat with it.
So the skinned fillet of the chicken breast is the best
yeah.
piece. All
So
right.
next one is we are making the seasoning sauce for the meat. Here we have soy sauce, chopped onion and garlic and sugar. Just everything, the bulgogi 양념. That's what we are having it here. Salt and pepper, soy sauce, sugar, chopped onion and garlic.
It seems if you want to make any kind of Korean food, you need to have a big supply of
Yeah.
soy sauce
So
on hand.
this is a very good basic sauce that you would like to perhaps memorize it, because any Korean food, bulgogi, chicken, pork, or some even vegetable dishes is a very good sauce you can use.
드릴게요.
So here this is the beef seasoning or meat seasoning we finished.
자, 요거를 반을요. 여기다
So I
양념을
You use the
해주세요.
bigger one over there.
양념 반 정도만 좀
Yeah,
넣어주세요.
just about half amount you have mixed with your meat mixture. So we have 3 kinds of meat here: chicken, pork, and beef. You are mixing with same bulgogi 양념.
And a slightly
Yes.
sweet sauce, huh?
Yes. The next step is 이게 도라지를 해야 되겠죠?
도라지
선생님?
손질을 할 거거든요.
So next step is the bell flower root that I introduced you before. It's called 도라지, very unique to Korean vegetable.
All right, I'm going to have to try this
You have to
one
try
too.
it, but you'll be surprised it has a slight bitter flavor.
I kind of like it. It's like a root vegetable. I think you could substitute a parsnip.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's good.
Similar
and the
flavor.
way you prepare toraji is you sprinkle a little bit of salt, and then you rub the root with the salt. You have to do it hard.
Okay, now has
Melanie.
this toraji been parboiled?
This one, usually when you buy it, they are dried forms. It's been soaked in water, and also you are rubbing it with salt, and then rinsing it with water. What it does is it has a slight sort of bitter flavor, and by doing this, it will get rid of that flour,
Okay.
the flavor. So after you sprinkle the flour, the salt, you rub them very hard, and then you rinse with water. So it's not really salty taste. Just you want to get rid of that bitter flavor.
If you are substituting another root, I think that you would need to parboil it just for a few seconds ahead of time.
That's good. So what will be our next step?
네, 다음은 이제 느타리 버섯 손질해 볼까요? 제가
The next
가져왔어요.
step is we're going to use mushrooms. We have 2 kinds of mushrooms, 느타리 버섯 and 표고버섯. 느타리 버섯 is oyster mushrooms. What you do with this, they're very gentle and soft. What you do is just slice them or tear it with your
just tear them
hands.
into little strips.
그리고요, 자, 이거 표고버섯 손질할게요.
And then 표고버섯, which is shiitake mushrooms. These you can buy fresh, but these days you will buy probably dried ones. And what you do is you soak it in warm water for a while. Once they are soft, you cut out the stem here. You don't want to use the stems. Usually it's pretty tough.
Yeah. Now these are still a little wet, so you don't have to squeeze them too much.
Right. And we're going to slice them
Okay.
to,
네 쪽으로.
to make about 4 sections, Melanie.
4 sections.
Yeah.
Oh,
So-
look, this one has a stem in it, so it is hard. Let's
Yeah.
pull that out.
So either you pull out or you can use your knife
Okay.
and cut it, and then to a bite size. So here we have radish. We have 2 kinds of mushrooms, and toraji is all ready.
자, 그리고 여기다가 밀가루를 좀 한번 이렇게 씌워주세요.
그 밀가루 넣는 이유는 뭔가요? 선생님?
밀가루 넣어서 이제 전체가 좀 부드러워지고 약간 그 먹을 때요 그 농도를 좀 주거든요.
Yeah, this is interesting. When you want to thicken the sauce, usually you put the flour at the last minute. For this dish, before we put any seasoning, we're going to mix about a tablespoon of flour with all those materials we have here. So we will mix it with the flour. That way, it will hold our seasoning better, and also later the sauce or the liquid will be thickened a little bit.
That's interesting.
Isn't that interesting?
그리고 아까 양념장 좀 남긴 거 있죠? 그거를 여기다가 양념해 주세요.
And remember, it's the same beef seasoning we reserved a little bit. We'll just mix it with the vegetable. So the beef we prepared, the 3 kinds of meat has already seasonings. This is just the vegetables that we're going to mix with the same kind of sauce.
The only difference is the flour that
flour,
we added.
right? And you add flour not at the last minute, but just beginning of the cooking.
That should help it brown a little bit too.
Yes, and also it really holds the seasoning with those ingredients better.
It
It's
makes a
good
bit of a
idea.
paste.
Yes, very good idea.
자, 그다음에 이제 고명을 준비하도록 할게요.
So the next step is garnish. That we're going to use 4 different kinds of garnish. So we have red pepper thread here. It's already all made.
Oh, those are red pepper.
Yeah.
It looks just like saffron. That's what I thought it was.
But these are spicier than saffron. But this just is a plain dried red pepper. You just cut it very, very thin.
very thin, like a hair.
Yes. Yes.
자, 이거는 여기 손으로 이렇게 좀 끊어주세요. 너무 길으니까요.
So this one sometimes you might find it too long. You just rip it apart a little bit, just make it smaller length. That's all we need to do it for red pepper threads. For garnish, we have 3 other kinds. We have ginkgo nuts. Ginkgo nuts have the skin. And in order to get rid of the ginkgo nuts, what we do is we stir fry a little bit. That way you can get rid of this brown skin. These
The
are
skin
called,
kind of pops when you fry it a little
these
bit.
are ginkgo nuts. So.
Oh, and then the nut itself is such a beautiful
Isn't that?
little yellow
Yes.
color.
Not only the tree is pretty, but also the nuts are very popular in Korea, especially for garnish. We use quite often. 그다음에는
여기다가 달궈지면은요, 은행 넣어서 볶아주세요.
Yeah. So once the pan is hot, you put the ginkgo nuts and you just stir fry it for a while. That's a good way of get rid of those brown skin.
네, 여기다가 소금 좀 내서 약간 간도 주시고요.
Sprinkle a little bit of salt. I'll do that for you.
Thank you.
Maybe the pan is not hot enough yet. Yeah. Here, Mrs. Lee's ginkgo nut is all fried.
자, 그다음에 이렇게 껍질 이렇게 벗겨주시면 돼요.
That's interesting. It just comes out very easily, as you can see over here. You just rub it with the paper towel or something, then the skin comes out very, very easily. There.
It's a little bit like the way we do hazelnuts, where you put them
Is
in the
that right?
oven and then rub them with a
Yeah,
towel.
yeah.
So here you can do it on the stove.
Right, the same idea. So as I mentioned, we have other garnish we're going to use. We have chestnuts and also we have jujubes. And ginkgo nut is all ready to use. And we'll see what Mrs. Lee does with the jujubes.
자, 요거는 이렇게 돌려서 씨를 한번 빼보세요.
For jujubes, it has a seed at the center. And then the way you get rid of the seed is, as Mrs. Lee does, you turn it around as you cut it. You just want the outer layer of skin. By cutting it, you can get rid of the seed inside. I'll let you do that.
I just took a little taste, and they taste like a date, but not as sweet.
It's not sweet, and it's almost dried. It's half dried dates, and these are very, very popular ingredients for Koreans. Not only for food, but also Chinese medicine. This is something Koreans have to have, especially fall and winter season.
I think in a pinch you could use a date if it weren't the sweetened kind.
Yeah, definitely. So as you roll it like that, you can get rid of the seed
yeah,
at the
it's
center.
not difficult at all.
So after you get rid of the seed, 어떻게 이거를 깎을까요, 선생님?
아, 요거요? 요거 그냥 그대로 넣어도 돼요.
그렇게 이번에는 크니까요.
예, 잘라 넣어도 되고요. 그냥 넣어도 돼요.
right.
근데 씨만 빼세요.
Right. So, sometimes we will use this as garnish by chopping it very fine. But this time, since all other ingredients are kind of chunk, we can leave just the way it is, or
Just
you
a
can
little round.
divide into half. But that way it'll be fine. So 대추, which is jujube, is ready. The next one is the chestnut. chestnut도 그대로 넣어도 되겠죠?
예,
그러면요?
요것도 넣어도 되고요. 모양대로 넣는 게 예뻐요.
Yeah. So also chestnuts too, we can just put the way it is. So
The whole
all
chestnut?
Chestnuts. The garnish is already here. Now the beef is marinated. Beef and chicken and pork, they are marinated for a while.
네, 예. 자, 이거 이제 끓여주면 되는데요.
So now it's a braising procedure. We're going to cook it all together.
예.
So let's see first.
자, 요거 고기 아래다가 아까 재놓은 거 밑에 놓고요.
So first we will layer the 3 meat mixture at the bottom.
네.
And one of the reason is, meat takes longer time. So we like to put it at the bottom with the meat and then put the vegetable after that.
So you're not going to pre-fry the meat?
No, it's a braising, so we cook it all together. So we have there 3 kinds of meat, and then radish, of course, and then 2 kinds of mushrooms, and 도라지 that I told you before, which is the bellflower roots.
자, 여기다가 고명 빼고요. 여기다가 물을 한 반 컵 정도 넣어서요. 졸여주세요.
And then we're going to add about a half cup water, and then we'll start braising it.
So the water comes up just about a half inch.
About
on
half
the
an inch,
sides.
about an inch or half an inch.
So you're not stewing
it's
it.
not
The water's
stewing,
just enough to
yes.
steam
That's
the top
right,
things.
yes.
Okay.
So we're going to wait for a while until it's cooked. And we are not putting the garnish from beginning. We'll put it in later, in the middle of the cooking. 그렇죠, 선생님? 한 얼마 정도 있다가 이
요거
가니쉬를
이제
넣을까요?
한번 끓고요. 끓으면 불을 약간 줄인 다음에 지금 좀 시간이 부족한데요. 그런 다음에 가니쉬를 넣어줘요, 전부요. 그런 다음에 20분 정도 더 줄여주면 돼요.
So you leave it for about 10 minutes or so. Once it's fully boiling nicely, and then we'll put the garnish and then cook 20 more minutes. Now the 개성무침 is boiling very nicely. It's time to put for us to put the garnish here. 이제 가니쉬를 넣을까요, 선생님?
Look at how much the liquid level has
Yes,
risen. It
yes.
must be because the radishes
With
are
the
so
radish,
liquidy.
yes, that's right, and it really gives a nice sweet flavor to
Oh,
the whole
and a
dish.
nice sweet smell too.
And later you will really like that chestnut too. And you know, one nice thing about this radish is radish itself doesn't have that distinctive flavor, but it does observe the, you know, the seasoning and other ingredients flavor.
Kind of like a potato.
Yeah, that's right. So you will really enjoy the flavor of radish, which is not its original flavor, but from other ingredients. That's why we really like this braised radish dish. So this has been cooked for a while, for 20 more minutes, all finished product here. They're nice and brown. It's
And
very
a very
nice.
rich
And
smell.
it smell and not much liquid. You can
You know, it's
notice.
interesting. There's not much meat in there, but the smell of the meat is very intense.
And as I mentioned before, once you taste later the radish, you can really have this all mixture of the different flavors together. Very, very nice. It's like a stew dish too. You know, stew is the same way. You put potato or meat or different things, but the vegetable actually tastes quite good. That's very pretty. Should you put a little bit of the red pepper thread a little bit at the top?
네.
There. So the difference also is other dishes we put the garnish after we all cooked, but with this one we cook the garnish together. And then as a final touch, we'll just sprinkle a little bit of the red pepper thread.
Is that because in this case the garnish, the chestnuts, the jujubes, and the ginkgo add their own flavor to the dish?
Yes, they're also like part of the ingredients. So this is 개성무침 we just finished. How did you like today's recipe?
I really liked it. I think it's a perfect autumn and winter dish.
I think so too. Now let's take a look at the cooking procedure to refresh our memory.
Foods from the Kaesong region are famous. Kaesong was the old capital of Koryo. It is a place where the food culture of the higher class can be seen. The fancy food is famous for their tastes. Kaesong food is representative of the Gyeonggi-do province. It cannot be left out of Korean food. Kaesong foods require a lot of care in making them. Jorangi dokguk, mini rice cake soup, have unique shapes. Rice cakes are pressed with a bamboo knife and shaped like little cocoons. Jorangi dokguk is eaten on New Year's. The cocoon shape is a symbol of good spirits. It prevents evil spirits. Jorangi dok, beef and eggs, are added to beef broth, and then sesame seeds are sprinkled on top. Kaesong food is like court food. Various ingredients are added for a combination of different flavors. Kaesong pyeonsu, Kaesong-style dumplings, are a good example. Kaesong pyeonsu tastes very good. It is made with beef, pork, and vegetables. Red pepper powder is added for a slightly hot taste. For dumpling stuffing, beef, pork, chicken, tofu, kimchi, and bean sprouts are used. Seoul pyeonsu is a rectangular shape, whereas Kaesong pyeonsu is round with a thin skin. They are big and chubby. After cooking them in soup, they are rinsed in cold water. This makes the skin shiny. They taste best when dipped in vinegar soy sauce. Another special classy dish is an expensive dish that uses sea cucumbers and mussels. Finely chopped beef is wrapped with sea cucumbers and mussels. After seasoning, it is dressed in flour and eggs and fried. This dish is called honghaesam, sea cucumber and mussel wraps. Food from the old capital of Koryo. Kaesong foods require more care and preparation than foods from other regions. Even now, there are many restaurants that specialize only in Kaesong food.
I hope you enjoyed all the different food from Kaesong area. Now we should see how our Kaesong muchim tastes. Shall we start? Smells wonderful.
You know, it looks like a dish that's fit for a king, but there's really very little meat in it. It's quite an inexpensive dish.
Yes.
But with the bright reds and yellows, it just is beautiful.
Very sumptuous. You know, sometimes you mentioned about the beef, but just about any Korean dishes, we don't really use a whole lot of meat. We do use meat quite often, but it's only for the little bit of flavoring. And the rest is basically vegetable.
That's why I think that Korean food is going to become one of the most popular waves in America next, because people are really interested in keeping their cholesterol level down and eating more vegetables.
Yes.
And Korean food does it naturally.
Yes, that's right. And that's, I think, it's one distinct character with any Asian food too, that we do not want to use too much too much meat, but basically a lot of different kind of vegetables.
Yet enough meat to pick up the flavor.
That's right, like today's dish.
Well, I can't wait. Can I take a bite?
Yes, go ahead. 네, 선생님도 드시죠. Was it the radish you tried?
Oh, the radish is wonderful. It's soft
Very
and rich
soft.
tasting. I'll have another one.
Also, one thing I would like to point out is radish holds its shape better than potato. So sometimes if you cook potato too long, it gets all mushy and then
Yes.
kind of messy.
That's right.
But radish does hold its shape quite well. So it keeps
Like a turnip.
Yes, yes, definitely.
But it doesn't have the same strong taste that the turnip does.
Right.
Oh, this is very delicious.
Very good.
Now, you say this is from Kaesong. What are some other regional dishes that you have in Korea?
Yeah.
It seems like it's such a small country, yet you have some really unique
That's right.
dishes.
Yeah, we have bibimbap from Jeonju. We have naengmyeon from Pyongyang, Pyongyang naengmyeon, Jeonju bibimbap. All these are very regional, dishes. And you mentioned that's interesting. So we also have a dialect different from each region. Even though we are in a small peninsula, but we have all different culture, different food, and even dialects are different.
Well, this dish for me is really different, but I think it's one of the best ones we've had here and perfect for a cold day.
Yes, definitely. And sometimes in old days in Kaesong, what they did was they would make this whole pot and keep it outside, let it freeze. And then whenever you need, you will take out some and just heat it up and serve.
Well, that's like a Western stew then, which always tastes better on the next day.
That's right. Yes, that's right. 이 선생님 다른 어떤 야채를 쓸 수가 있을까요? 이 접시에 이 같은 음식을 하면서요?
네, 여러 가지 고기를 쓴 게 특징인데요. 이제 가정에서 하실 때는 이제 한 가지 무에다가 돼지 사태라든가 넣어서 그냥 간장 양념만 하셔도 이제 술안주감으로 아주 좋아요.
Yeah. You know, the special characteristics of this dish, you are using 3 kinds of meat, but you could use just pork and radish, and then you can skip some of the other vegetable. You may do that, but also it's braised a long time with soy sauce. It's also an excellent dish that you have with your alcoholic beverage. So today we learned about a Kaesong dish called the Kaesong muchim. The various ingredients make the dish sumptuous without being very complicated. So you might make Kaesong muchim some evening when you feel adventurous. Thank you for joining us today. We'll see you next time. 안녕히 계세요.
감사합니다.